The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army. And now, ladies and gentlemen,
You're now about to witness the truth.
It's the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Welcome. Actually, let me do this. There we go. That's just to let you guys know where we are and what's going on. That's our normal signal to let you know if this is a podcast version of the Benjamin Dixon Show. I had one of my longtime supporters say they tweeted me about how they feel about the podcast versions, but sometimes they're necessary. But before I go too deep into what I wanted to discuss tonight, I want to get your feedback. I am seriously considering at the top of December beginning the live show in earnest in the morning times at 9 a.m. Eastern time. Partly because it's just easier for me to be consistent in the mornings. I'm a morning person, whether I want it to be or not. I'm a morning person. I'm up at 5:45 regardless. Regardless. I said it right the first time. I'm up at 5:45 no matter what the day is, no matter what time I went to bed the night before. So I think it's a good mix for where I am personally, professionally, and in my family. And also, that's where we started. When the Benjamin Dixon Show started, it was a morning show. So I want your feedback on it. Most of you who consume the content, you consume it in podcast format, and it's usually the morning of. So that would help with some consistency in terms of I would be reporting news that's fresh that morning. But also, I think it's definitely something that's going to help out because not to throw a pity party for myself, but what happens is when no matter what time I go to bed, I get up at 5:45. It's just like, that's what old people do. I'm old now, folks. I'm old. Young people can sleep in till noon. I don't have that privilege. Physically, biologically, I just can't do it. But most of my nights when I do the night show, they end at the night show at 10 o'clock. And then there's always something else that I have to do afterwards. And I'm not getting to bed till like midnight, so it hasn't been really conducive. The reason I didn't do a show last night, full transparency, is because I just collapsed. Not in the literal sense, but in the sense that I got home and I'm like, I just physically could not do any more because I had just gotten off of a 16-hour day. And I'm not the young person that I used to be, right? So I have to do more to have to be more cognizant of my limitations. I have limitations and I have to recognize and respect them. And part of that is self-care, is making sure that I have a healthy schedule. And so for that reason, and primarily that reason alone, I want to start doing the show on the morning time. But I want to give you enough time to adjust. Those of you who listen at nighttime, who listen live, hopefully you could join us live on Monday through Thursday morning at 9 a.m. It's not set in stone because I want to get your feedback and your thoughts. So you can leave me a voicemail at 857-600-0518, or even easier, just tweet me at Benjamin P. Dixon and let me know what you think. Okay. A couple of things that I want to talk about, 2 stories. I'm going to be honest with you. Usually when I do this podcast format, I talk about what I'm the most passionate about that day, or at least in that moment. And what I'm absolutely the most passionate about in this moment is not political. I'm not going to talk about it, but I just want to mention it. People are already dogging the Justice League movie. And I'm like, what is wrong with you? This is going to be one of the best superhero movies ever. I haven't seen it. I'm not seeing it till tomorrow, maybe even Friday, but I don't care if Rotten Tomatoes gives it 2%. I don't care if everyone says it's garbage. I already know Justice League is going to be one of the greatest superhero movies of all time. That's honestly what I'm the most passionate about right now. But because that's not political content, we have to say that for Politics and Grits whenever we resurrect that show. And I'm saying that like I actually have time to resurrect that show, but I digress. But the real thing I'm going to talk about really quickly is 2 things that are going on. Number one, Twitter has started the purge, ladies and gentlemen. They have started the purge in earnest. And, it's funny, but it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt some progressives. But I want to applaud them. I want to applaud them because they are really trying to crack down on abusive behavior. And their new Twitter rules for verification are really Well, let's just put it like this. The white supremacist Richard Spencer is no longer verified. Kesner, I can't remember his first name. The guy who organized Unite the Right. He's no longer verified. Their rules now prevent them from verifying people who are affiliated with hate organizations. And I think that's, technically part of what I want to talk about tonight is not only what Twitter is doing, but the fact that we can't allow hate to be a subjective idea. That's really what a lot of people want when they try to draw an equivalence and say hate is all the same. There's some people on the left who hate. Yeah, there are some people who have hate on the left. Clearly, I run into them all the time. And there's some deranged people on the left. But there's a difference between being hateful and being a part of a hate organization. And Unite the Right, the people in Charlottesville, Virginia, who killed Heather Heyer, Richard Spencer, all of them, Laura-loomer, who also has been de-verified, I guess is the word we would go with. All of them are affiliated with hate, organized hate. And the most powerful thing for them to do right now would be, or what they've been trying to do all along, is to draw an equivalence to say that there's no difference between the people who are out there marching with tiki torches and neo-Nazis and, screaming Jews will not replace us, that they are somehow the same as people who advocate for an economic system that is egalitarian. That is their ultimate move. That's their only move. And the only reason I'm preaching this to the choir, because I know you guys know this, is because there's some people who try to assert that these are the same thing. Some people on our side of the equation, right? Free speech advocates and absolutists, actually, because we're all free speech advocates, but then there's absolutists and who try to say that this move by Twitter is a bad move because it's inevitably going to hurt you. But here's the thing that I kind of dawned on me. Maybe I'll never get verified because I'm a little crass, right? And I say things and I counter troll trolls. But you know what I'm not doing? I'm not out there hating on people because of their race. You're not going to find any tweets of mine, even white people, right? A lot of people, you're the real racist. Okay, yeah, whatever. But you're not going to find just direct hate based on somebody's identity, somebody's ethnicity, race, religion, sexual orientation, none of that. And what you will find is very combative interactions where I drop all the pretense and laugh people to scorn and try to eviscerate them publicly. That's not hate. That's just me wearing my feelings on my sleeves and letting people know exactly how I feel without a filter. But it's not predicated on, I'm not attacking someone because of their religion. Right. And so for people who try to draw an equivalence between those of us who are harsh, crass, and basically assholes. Yes, Benjamin P. Dixon is an asshole. Put that on the record. There's a distinction between being an asshole and being a bigot who is attacking people solely based on their identity. And this is why people hate identity politics so much, is because they don't want there to be any identities. And if there's no identities, then there's no protection based on those identities. And they want to be free to say anything and everything bigoted that they ever dreamed of saying without any repercussions. And they don't want any repercussions from Twitter. And Twitter has made a move. Twitter's made a move to understand the responsibility that they have with this verification check. Now, here's the thing. I've tried to get verified, and my producer insists that I keep trying. And every time I've gotten rejected, I'm like, oh, well, moving on. Right. I don't put a lot of emphasis on verification except for the credibility, I guess, that it lends you to have this official check mark from Twitter. And beyond that, I really don't care about it. And that's the thing in and of itself that makes Twitter responsible for the check marks. They never saw it as an endorsement, according to their press release today. But in a way, it is an endorsement. It is an endorsement to say that we here at Twitter recognize that this person is a real person, and that anything that you hear from them is something that we can guarantee is coming from them because we have verified them. And in a sense, that is an endorsement, whether they want to admit it or not. And because of that, they have a responsibility. And they're taking it more seriously now. They had a responsibility not to just give this endorsement to someone just simply because they're popular, especially if you're popular based on the amount of hate that you can spew. All right, I'm warming up here. We might have a good show tonight. And so there are a lot of people today who are losing their minds because they are finding out that their verification has been revoked. Well, I mean, first of all, who cares, right? Ultimately, your account hasn't been suspended. You still have your right to free speech to say whatever the hell you want on this private company's platform. So it just means that you're like that enthralled with the idea of being verified. Like, are you less of a person? And of course, the answer is yes, they feel like they're less of a person because they depended on that verification from Twitter to validate them. And that is why Twitter had the responsibility to not validate people like Jason Kessler. I remembered his name now. So Jason Kessler he has been de-verified. We did an entire segment on him last week where Twitter verified him. And he is quite literally a white nationalist and affiliated with Nazis. And here's another thing. Let's go back to the free speech advocates. The fact of the matter is that yes, Nazis have the right to say whatever they want to say in America. Okay, fine. I got it. But you don't have the right to equate what they want to say and simply say that it is political speech. Therefore, it is that much more protected than it. That's just fine. That might be technically true, but you cannot equate it with political speech in general. There is a difference. And I'm thankful that Twitter is finally getting to realize, to know that there is a difference, my friends, between saying that you think a person is the scum of the earth because they're Jewish and a person who says, F that person, F that Nazi and their beliefs. You're not hatred is not a protected class. And that's essentially what they want. They want their hatred to be a protected class so that if somebody punches a Nazi, then it would be viewed as a hate crime instead of something to be celebrated. And this is an intentional obtuseness that exists in the free speech absolutist. And it goes underneath the guise of they're fearful that the pendulum can swing in the wrong direction too far. But that's because you oversimplify the nuances of political speech. And the United States does it in general. I think Germany gets it right in that they admit that there's some things that should never be said in their country again, at least without punishment, without repercussions. We don't have to live. I mean, it's the height of absurdity to think that we have to live in peace and harmony with people who want to destroy us. Or that we have to sit amongst the speech and listen to the speech and the harassment of people who want to attack us simply because of our identity in order for us to have a civilized civilization. That's the height of absurdity. That's ridiculous. We do not have to coexist with people who want to commit genocide. That doesn't make me more civilized because I can sit peacefully next to a Nazi and hear him out. That makes me a fool. And so to people who are lamenting this move by Twitter because they feel like it's going to cause a crackdown, here's the thing. There's very simple guidelines on Twitter now. You know what it is? It's the guidelines of my friend Lucas, who started the politics and religion and philosophy group. Or at least he moderated it. I don't know if he started it. I can't remember so long ago, but he had one simple rule for that group on Facebook. And it's the same rule that is on Twitter. Don't be a dick. That's it. Don't be a dick. And don't get me wrong, I am the king dick. Oh man, that could play so many different ways, but that's not this show. That's another show. I am an asshole. And I have to remind myself from time to time to not, be an asshole just because I'm an asshole. right? I have to remind myself, just because I can doesn't mean I should. Just because I can crush somebody rhetorically on Twitter doesn't mean I should. And sometimes I have to take a step back. I've gotten suspended like one time with this account. And the thing is, it's very simple. Like, I say everything that I want to say, but I don't do it in a way to harass people. I'm not there after individuals. Okay, every now and then I am after individuals. Okay, all right, I hear you. You called me on my bullshit. I get it, but not often. Most of the time, I'm after two things: ideas, dumb ideas, and political leaders who need to be held accountable. And I'm sorry, you know, I'll take my chances there. That's where I don't care. I'm not, if I come off too crass or whatever, if I say something that hurts their feelings or whatever, because they have power and they need to be held accountable. But Joe Schmo, user over number 3562298Z4, you know, that random egg, I don't really see eggs that much anymore. But anyway, that random user, you know, there's no need for me to go down in flames on Twitter over a random user who has no political power. And the rules are really simple, but that's not what people like Jason Kessler and laura-loomer and Richard Spencer want. They want to be able to say anything and everything to people based on their hatred of their particular identity. And now the pendulum has swung so far away from them. And it's I'm personally, I have no problem. You know why I have no problem living in this world, in this new world of Twitter? It's because I always have had to self-censor. Now, this is something that I've actually argued with progressives, particularly Bernie Sanders supporters during the prime. I've always have to self-censor. There's never been a point in my life as a black man, particularly as a black man or as a black person, that I've never had to self-censor. I've always have to self-censor, because if I don't, the first accusation that's going to come against me, and not only an accusation, but shut doors, is that, oh, he's an angry black man. Yeah, that's always looming over everything that I say, because people are quick to see any amount of wrath in my eyes, even if it's just like a 0.01% on a scale from 1 to Hulk, right? If I'm even a 0.1, people are quick to say, oh, he's an angry black man. Right? I've always had to self-censor. Black women always have had to self-censor. It's nothing for us. People of color in general have to self-censor to play ball in this system that wasn't designed for us. Check the receipts. Check the receipts, as I rub my fingers together in the air to symbolize receipts, but you can't see it. Check the receipts. Historically, we've always had to choose our words wisely and be moderated in our tone. So this thing with Twitter is like nothing for us, because it's like we do it all the damn time. We can't say what's really on our mind. We have to say things that are acceptable and ease you into it. And people are losing their damn minds because now they can't call somebody, whatever racial slur they want to use. Or they can't call a woman whatever sexist word they want to use, or whatever homophobic slur they want to throw at people from the LGBTQ, or transphobic slur they want to throw at people in the LGBTQ community. They're losing their mind because they aren't free to be the bigot that they were born to be, and that the Constitution guarantees they can be. Maybe we're getting to a place where people realize, even people progressive, particularly progressives. I have to hit this home. People on the left, libertarians, progressive libertarians, whatever you want to, however you want to categorize yourself. It's time for you to realize and accept the fact that their speech that is aimed at harming people based on their marginalized identity. Hell, I mean, that's just one aspect of it. You know, I can't get on Twitter and call somebody a cracker. You hear how I say it. I don't even say it that much to have it sound correct coming off my lips, because I just don't, I don't do it even to the majority group. You can't do it to the majority group, but you had an entire group from the majority who sought to harm people on Twitter in their entire career, but we're only talking about Twitter right now because of Twitter's new rules. Their entire goal on Twitter was to freely express their hatred. They wanted to be free to express their hatred for whatever marginalized group they wanted to attack that day. And we had people on the sideline saying, well, they should be able to totally do it because, the Constitution really protects all their free speech. And because if we censure them, then ultimately censorship is going to come down our street. And that is only if you make the obtuse conclusion that their hate speech is the same as protest speech, or their hate speech is the same as speech fighting against their hate speech. If you make that overly simplistic conclusion, then I guess I could see your conundrum. But there's shades to this thing, right? It's not just enough to call it nuance, but it is nuance. It's not enough to say that it's complex, but it is complex. It's necessary. It's necessary for us to understand that, again, can I repeat this same thing again? It is not required of a civilized people to coexist with people who want to commit mass genocide or who want to segregate the races. People coexist with people who don't want to coexist, or to be tolerant of the intolerant. There's no requirement for us to do that. And by doing that, or saying that we should do that, is the height of absurdity. I want to read a couple of tweets from some people who, here's one. I don't know if Ann Coulter has been de-verified yet, but Mattel is releasing the first Barbie wearing a hijab. And Ann Coulter had this to say: Jihad Barbie, ISIS kin sold separately. This is literally the definition of Twitter's new rules. This is literally breaking Twitter's new rules, saying that you will not be a verified account if you attack someone based on their identity. And of course, when Ann Coulter loses her check mark, she's going to be like, oh my gosh, it's like the Constitution has no meaning anymore. And overly sensitive snowflake liberals are, that's not a voice, but that's what I think of when I think of Ann Coulter. Overly sensitive liberals, libtards, are ruining America. Let's go start us another platform that's free and allows us to freely express our hate. Jihadi Barbie. Katie Hopkins, her evil ass. Dear Mattel, respectfully, does the Shiro doll have her labia and clitoris intact? Talking about the accusations of genital mutilation, that is an entirely different show. Right? But still attacking them based on their identity. laura-loomer, her ass got de-verified. She said, sneak peek of my new Shiro hijab Barbie from Mattel. You can be anything. And she has a picture of a woman of the hijab Barbie with bruised eyes and bruised lips. laura-loomer is one of the evilest women, not just woman, but she's one of the most evil. I wasn't going to say it. You guys know I wasn't going to say it. I wanted to, though. I sure as hell wanted to. But this, again, is the self-censoring that I have to do. But anyway, laura-loomer is an evil person. She is an evil. I mean, I try to avoid moralistic language, even though I'm a religious person. I try to avoid it because it overly simplifies an analysis of the person that we're discussing. But this is an evil woman. She's an evil human being. And she lost her Twitter verification today. So good on Twitter for that, because it's not the same. It's not. Me calling her evil is not the same as her attacking Muslims for, just because they're Muslim. And if you draw that conclusion, I'm not sure how to logically explain it to you, because you've trapped yourself in this this feedback loop of intolerance. There's a philosopher who addressed that perfectly. I'm going to quote before we're done tonight, but I want to just kind of give you a quick breakdown of Twitter's new verification guidelines, because it's simple. It's simple yet effective. And listen, guys, and ladies and non-gender conforming people, it's going to hit quite a few progressives and liberals. Because you know why? Because we have quite a few progressives and liberals who are more dicks than I am. I'm not going to say bigger dicks. So anyway, this is from Twitter. The blue verified badge on Twitter lets people know if an account of public interest is authentic. When an account is verified, additional settings become available. Let's go to the explanation of lost verified status. Twitter reserves the right to remove verification at any time without notice. Reasons for removal may reflect behaviors on and off Twitter that include that include 1. Intentionally misleading people on Twitter by changing one's display name or bio. Well, okay, so I'll never get verified because I change my stuff pretty regularly, but that's besides the point. 2, promoting hate and or violence against or directly attacking or threatening other people on the basis of race, ethnicity, national origin, sexual orientation, gender identity, religious affiliation, age, disability, or disease. Supporting organizations or individuals that promote the above. Guess what, people? This list is the same exact list that you find in the definition of hate crimes and protected groups. Groups against which you cannot discriminate. You know who you can discriminate against? You know who's not mentioned on this list? People who are targeted simply because they are hate-filled. The intolerant. So, I don't know if I'm going to test my luck on this. Well, I'm not verified anyway, so who the hell cares? I'm still going to tweet about punching Nazis. Because it's all the rave. Anyway, keep going. 3, inciting or engaging in harassment of others. I'm not a fan of dogpiling. I know a lot of people say Progressive Army dogpiles. No, Progressive Army is a very loose affiliation of people who support Progressive Army. We have a very specific list of people who are actually Progressive Army. And if you see anybody who's actually on our list of Progressive Army that's dogpiling and harassing, not protecting themselves, not pushing back against people. But if you find people in Progressive Army that are actually doing that, who are on our list, on our website, send me a message and I will address them directly because we don't dogpile. That's not what we do. There's no need for us to do that. However, and I know this is a tangent, but people always accuse us of it. It's like, here's the funny thing about it. Can I go off on a tangent for just 30 more seconds? You would swear Progressive Army was like the Legion of Doom or something. Like there's thousands of us. Progressive Army is like, 25 people? And that's in our extended family. Of course, there are the listeners that are, the countless millions of people. I'm laughing because that's not true as much as I know that's not true. But even in our extended family, we're, people who are not officially Progressive Army, it maybe 1,000 people. But in terms of those people who are actually Progressive Army, there's only a handful. But anyway, dogpiling, getting back to Twitter, is like dogpiling is something that I hate. I hate to see people dogpile simply because that's the person they want to target this week. So that type of behavior should be, and that type of behavior is going to get a lot of progressives in trouble because progressives do it. We do it. We're not better than conservatives in a couple of key places. We're better than them in the sense that we're not targeting people simply because of their what did Twitter say? Race, ethnicity, national origin, sexual orientation, gender identity, religious affiliation, age, disability, or disease. Like, this is literally what makes up conservatism today. Anyway, continue on. Inciting or engaging in harassment of others, check. Violence or dangerous behavior, sub point, directly or indirectly threatening or encouraging any form of physical violence against an individual or any group of people, including threatening or promoting terrorism. Well, good. They're going to get rid of the ISIS accounts, the actual ISIS accounts. Violent, gruesome, shocking, and disturbing imagery. I was thinking about Sean King today. Sean's going to have to be careful tweeting out those videos that he tweets out all the time. Self-harm, suicide. Well, yeah, that's a good cause. Engaging in a Twitter activity on Twitter that violates the Twitter rules. So, it's straightforward, folks. You can't be a dick and you can't be a bigoted dick. And I would advise everyone who is, like me, and you're an asshole, just to chill. You don't have to be an asshole every day. Save it for the days, because there are going to be fights. There are going to be virtual fights on Twitter that are worth going down in flames over. But it's not every day. It's not every day. And it shouldn't be every year. Or it shouldn't be every month. Maybe once a year you run into something that's actually worth losing your Twitter account over. So be it. It's hilarious. Like, the social media is the public square of the 21st century. Right, because we're talking about these things like what people used to totally, I'm saying like and totally so much. I've been around in Boston too long. But anyway, we're fighting over things that people literally fall over in the public square in the past, where the best place to find out information was to go to the square. And now it's Twitter, and we're fighting over some of the same things. We're trying to hash this out. All right. So anyway, that's it. That's an important thing, and not so much because of Twitter and verification and all that, but because of the arguments that you have to convince yourself of to justify being afraid of this move. To be afraid of this move by Twitter means that you see there's an equivalence between the hate speech of Nazis and those of us who are pushing back against Nazis. And that's fundamentally untrue. And it goes back to that circular feedback loop of people who can't understand that there is a stopping point to tolerating intolerance, right? We are not required to tolerate intolerance. That doesn't make a civilized society. That undermines your civilized society. And I already read a quote on tolerance. Karl-popper. Somebody sent this to me as I was explaining it. It's another thing, one of those things where I can explain it in my own words because I sit down and I figure it out. And somebody else has already said it in the past. But Karl-Popper, he said, unlimited tolerance must lead to the disappearance of tolerance. If we extend unlimited tolerance even to those who are intolerant, if we are not prepared to defend a tolerant society against the onslaught of the intolerant, then the tolerant will be destroyed and tolerance with them. Like that, I mean, just at face value, if you never heard that before, your head is probably like, huh? And the rest of you who've heard it before, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So allow me to read it one more time. Unlimited tolerance must lead to the disappearance of tolerance. He's making he's creating a philosophical proof, if you would, if I can combine two disciplines. It's a proof. Here's a statement. Unlimited tolerance must lead to the disappearance of tolerance. And now here's why. If we extend unlimited tolerance even to those who are intolerant, if we are not prepared to defend a tolerant society against the onslaught of the intolerant, then the tolerant will be destroyed and tolerance with them, because intolerant people will destroy those of us who are tolerant. Because we gave them room, we gave them space, we gave them voice, we gave them a platform in the name of the First Amendment. And we didn't realize that there are limitations to the First Amendment. And the limitation is like the limitation is that it's what the government can do. So sure, the government won't get involved and say, oh, we're not Germany. We're not going to ban Nazism in the United States. But we as a collective society can come together and say, we will not tolerate that. And we will run you the hell out of town. I don't really have any great philosophical way of saying it, but get your ass out of town. But this ends the feedback loop of, well, literally, because I argued with myself on this quite a bit, back in those days where I was just like a, idealistic liberal hocked up on, neoliberal propaganda in the form of Star Trek and in the form of the American president. Still love Star Trek, but it's straight up propaganda. It's imperialist. But anyway, that's besides the point. And when I was younger and I was hooked up on that idealistic propaganda, I was like, I would fight for you to have the right to say whatever you want to say. I will not be intolerant of the intolerant, because being intolerant of the intolerant makes me intolerant. And who's going to put up with me? Kind of like, and then I got to the point, even before I ran into this quote by Karl-Popper, I just got to the point of not Julius Caesar, or Caesar in general, where you become the dictator. And then at the end of your rule as a dictator, your responsibility was to relinquish your power or kill yourself, because you've done what you had to do as the dictator to preserve Rome. And now you either relinquish your power or kill yourself. And I was like, I'm fine. I will be that person. I will be the person who will be completely intolerant of intolerance. And then I'll fall on my own sword at the end. And you guys do away with me because I become the uncleansed, the dirty, the defiled one, the one who's been defiled with intolerance. I'll do the dirty work. I'll put the dirty work in because we don't have time for the idealistic people who are going to give room to Nazis in our society to organize, to run amok in the streets and not be challenged underneath the guise of it's the First Amendment. There's a First Amendment rights. Meanwhile, they're organizing themselves to destroy us and to destroy our society and to make it into their dream. Unlimited tolerance must lead to the disappearance of tolerance. If we extend unlimited tolerance even to those who are intolerant, if we are not prepared to defend a tolerant society against the onslaught of the intolerant, then the tolerant will be destroyed and tolerance destroyed with them. Bottom line, not being tolerant of intolerant people does not make us intolerant. It makes us wise. And so people who are lamenting this move, like this Twitter thing is like just one brief microcosm in the entire existence of humanity that encapsulates this argument, right? That's why I could bring it back. It's the contemporary news that has that has people struggling with this probably eternal struggle, right? I'm sure anywhere in history, past, present, and future, anywhere in throughout the universe, people struggle with this, or entities, sentient beings struggle with this idea of tolerating people who are intolerant for the sake of appearing and being absolutely tolerant. And so Twitter is just a brief momentary microcosm. And in this case, it's important for people who are lamenting this because they feel as though the pendulum has swung too far in the realm of censorship. That's because you are equating their speech to be something comparable and equal to that of those of us who are fighting for the liberties and freedoms and the simple right to exist in public for marginalized groups. And here's a beautiful thing, right? Well, what about Islam? Islam is intolerant. Well, okay, yeah, sure. So fundamentalism in any religion or any political ideology is fundamentally intolerant. And so anywhere we see intolerance, they've got to go. I don't care if it's Christianity fundamentally. You know, I don't care that. You know, if anybody's ready to kick people to the curb, it is the radical Christians. I'm ready to kick them the hell to the curb. I'm like the moderate Christian trying to yell at these people, stop being a radical Christian, fundamentalist, harming the lives of other people. So I don't care where it comes from. I don't care. I don't care if it comes from the black community, and it won't come from the black community at large. It would come from like the Hotep community. It would come from some black nationalists and some people, you can't really call them black supremacists because you actually have to have some power to be a supremacist. But on paper, they have some of the same traits as supremacists, white supremacists, whatever you want to call them. I don't care where it comes from, bruh. If you are intolerant of people because of who they are, who they love, what they believe, you're an enemy. You are an enemy of mine, and we will not tolerate you. So, I had two things that I wanted to talk about tonight, but I got a feeling. I just got a feeling, as Negan says, that's all we're going to do. And I will see you for a live show. I promise you, we'll have a live show tomorrow. Take care, everybody.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog, join the Progressive Army, and support The Benjamin Dixon Show. It's Ben Dixon! If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.
Consider becoming a Patreon. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.